Hails and welcome to Rauta's Inferno Festival 2022 review cap. What was it all about? How did we feel? The crew that is, and how were the bands? What was going on in Oslo? Now, people who don't know what Inferno Festival 2022 or what Inferno Festival to begin with is all about probably should check out the previous video where I just previewed the whole event taking place in Easter 2022. This time I'm going to focus like how it actually went and what kind of complications we had, what things we should have figured out before the festival and what was actually were the fun parts. Now, because of the vast amount of bands, I mean if you really include the smaller clubs, also it's about 50 bands in total, so I'm not gonna recap each individual band as such because it would take a lot of time. Instead, I will focus giving you the general idea, what were the expectations and what was the reality, how did we solve those issues, and also what you need to think about beforehand when heading to Oslo for yet another dose of Inferno Festival. And also, of course, mentioning those highlights and listing the interviews which we got done. Now, I'll try to keep this in my head and remember that I don't have any kind of lists or notes here, so I'm just basically ranting this one out. Now, Inferno Festival is obviously mostly a black metal festival, and it's mostly also around Norwegian bands. Norwegians really love their own music, and they have this kind of a national romanticism very much in their veins, and that is kind of a clear when you head to places like Inferno. You will see that Norwegian thing is all over the place. And it's not a bad thing, obviously, because, I mean, we all know that Norwegians have so big footprint in the second wave of black metal. Basically everything that started to happen in early 90s and has continued ever more since that. But mainly because a lot of those bands that started in early 90s are the focus in Inferno Fest. That means, yes, but not limited to bands such as, Mayhem and Tåke and Comfort, things like that. These are all bands that were taking place there. Obviously, there are lots of bands which were not there. We could go on with Satyricon or Burzum or Darkthrone and like. But let's be honest about it. Not every Norwegian bands plays a show. And a lot of these old Norwegian bands have played at Inferno, including bands like Dimmu Borgir or Cold, or for example this time Toulouse. Anyway, the point is, Inferno is mostly built around black metal, and most of those bands are Norwegian, and that is exactly the reason why so many people come to see those shows and the whole event. It's also kind of a like, you would call kind of a like old school meeting in the sense of that a lot of those scene people involved in bands like Tåke or people involved in bands like Satyricon are present there. Not everybody, of course, but a lot of people will be there, just as fans, as artists, as just, metalheads, fans alike. And that's one of the coolest parts in my opinion. Norwegian people in general, based on my experiences over the years, are pretty goddamn cool people. I mean, they're easy to talk to, they're fun, polite, nice, and all that stuff. Well, that's technically speaking the whole metal around the globe, but still, I just wanted to kind of say it out loud. Now, for me, obviously, going back to Inferno Festival, I mean, I was there for the first time in 2004, also as a press dude, but this time as a Rauta crew, part of the whole deal here. And we had 3 people, me, my video guy, and our photographer, gal, who is actually, or was doing also the Imperiumi.net review or report of this whole event. She provided the photos, I provided the text, and then I had the other foot in as Rauta dude here doing those interviews. We got 8 in total. And let's get back to those in a bit. But first, let's sum up the whole event here. I mean, 4 days and more than 40 bands in total, divided into basically 2 main stages. Well, there are smaller clubs, but the Rockefeller is the main venue for the whole event. And you will have this bigger stage for bigger bands. And then you have this John D Club for a little bit smaller or less known bands. And you can just, go between those two clubs inside the building. They're in the same block, just in different stories. The smaller club is roughly some 400 people, if I remember correctly. That is the maximum capacity for the event. And then there's this bigger Rockefeller stage, which is about 1,500 people, give or take. And that is also, of course, the main stage for bands such as Venom, Triumph of Death, that is the Tom G. Warrior band playing Hellhammer, and bands like Tåke, Mayhem, Creator, Comfar, things like that, Gorgoroth. So a lot of those bigger bands were taking place there on the main stage, obviously, because, you know, it would get really packed when the bigger ones would enter the stage and do their performance. Now, the smaller ones still include a lot of cool bands, but it was just a smaller club, also very packed, and sometimes you would have to wait in line in order to get in because the limitation of about 400 people is strict for obvious safety reasons. And then you can just go back and forth. And the main Rockefeller venue is divided into 3 floors. The main area is, of course, the stage and a big floor for people to check out the bands and all that stuff. But you have 2 layers of these kind of U-shaped balconies. You should just take a flight of stairs upstairs and you will have another balcony there, and on the top floor also another balcony. So it's 3 stages and they all have places to sell you beer. And then there's this outdoors bar in the 3rd floor where you can just, you know, have a cigarette or just have some fresh air or listen to some DJ playing music in a smaller bar area. And of course you can just buy beer there as well. Now that is one good thing about Norwegian club events. I mean, there are so many places to get your beers from, so you don't have to just see those gigs dry-mouthed. You can just grab beers in multiple places, which is kind of a cool because obviously we are not there to, you know, be fully sober. And then again, of course, get other refreshments, you know, water, coffee, and whatever. And there are also a couple of places you can get a little bit of a snack. Mind you, that is quite expensive and not maybe the best quality. For example, I just decided to go out to get some snack because you need to eat in order to stay kind of a, you know, energetic throughout the whole shows. On top of these 2 clubs playing the main stuff here, there are smaller clubs which basically act as opening nights for the whole main event. These are the ones that happen in afternoon time, featuring a little bit smaller bands, but still worth your time if you have the energy to go there after staying up for way too late with the after parties. That is me missing all the smaller clubs. At Rockefeller, you also have this kind of a lounge area where you just can relax your feet and all that stuff. Very much needed with 4 days and lots of standing up. You have the merchandise area where you can buy all those t-shirts and other apparel of bands, obviously. And then you have this cool tattoo and art area where you can get yourself tattooed or buy some arts or see other people getting tattooed. Some interesting work there, and you might even spot some familiar names. But overall, it's rather compact club where you have all the bands, all the booze, all the tattoo artists and apparel, and, you know, places to sit down for a bit, and that's it. And people are obviously quite like-minded. I mean, of course, we all go there for couple of obvious reasons. First, to see the bands, mostly death metal, but black metal, but also a little bit of death metal, thrash metal, heavy metal, doom metal, and even a little bit of rock music too. I'm talking about the kind of music that is actually more rock than metal, you know. And then just to see friends and get networked. I mean, that's part of the deal for so many bands, so many press people, and I guess even for a lot of fans and, you know, the people actually helping the things, those volunteers, which obviously make this event possible. So there are lots of volunteers, you know, doing their job in order to get the whole festival done. Everything was running smoothly. There were no delays with schedules. There were no technical complications, which I guess is kind of a given after more than 20 years in the making. That is how long Inferno has been in the business. Now, if we go even further in the back into the history, I mean, everybody knows that Norwegian black metal got kind of started in early 90s, and the death metal bands were there even a little bit further, like even in the late 80s. But it took more like 10 years from that early years of Norwegian black metal to become so much commercial or accepted or whatever you want to use here, that Inferno Festival took place. And from the early years, if you go to the website of the whole festival, I'll give you a little bit of idea. I actually have this Inferno magazine open here for whatever reasons. And I mean, if you go to this schedule thing, past years obviously, you get to see all these bands that have played here. And a lot of the bands that started here in like 2001 or 2002 are kind of a big ass bands nowadays, obviously. But things were a little bit different back in the days. Nonetheless, this list is pretty interesting if you really go through it and see like what kind of shows were played back in the days. Now, obviously, a lot of these bands are a lot bigger, and throughout the course of 20 years, things have changed. Now, my previous experience of Inferno Festival was indeed 2004, and then back in the days, it was like 2 days, and a lot of these bands were like meaningful already back in the days, but you know, the festival was still a little bit smaller, even though the venue is exactly the same. And one could make the claim that this festival has kind of outgrown of that venue, because it would actually take a lot more people in if it was only possible. But, you know, things are what they are, and I can't really say what they should do or should not do in order to make Inferno Festival work better, because actually it works fine if you don't count in the very fact that it's been sold out, you know, weeks before actually having the festival dates. But indeed, from 2 days to 4 days, it's quite a jump. I mean, at some point it was 3 days and all, but, you know, it is quite heavy experience. Not only in metaphorical ways, but also because you're spending so many nights sipping your booze, watching those bands and standing. For example, my feet were killing me at some point, and I also had this weird back pain, which I never have when I'm just, you know, having normal everyday life and working out. But when you keep standing for 4 days, you feel like your feet and back are trying to kill you, and you're not resting enough because you go to bars after the show, hang out with your friends, new and old, and you maybe end up in after parties, and then you don't sleep enough. You know, you get the idea. So I feel like I got 1 year older just during those 4 days. But I am still saying it was worth it. This was one of those wonderful festivals where a lot of cool bands play, where you meet these great people, new and old friends, and you just have, in general, good times. Also, the festival hotel, Clarion, was a beautiful thing, and only a few minutes, maybe some 7-8 minutes away from Rockefeller. Too bad we booked our hotel way too late in order to get our crew proper for, or actually 3 people hotel room, so we couldn't go there, and we had some 15 minutes walk from the venue, which kind of cost us a little bit extra walking. That's no problem, obviously, if you book your room early enough, and if you get your tickets early enough, you won't have the problem of the event being sold out. This is something that you need to consider if you're going to Inferno for whole full 4 days, you know, experience. Even though there are days before that, so it could technically be a week if you want to go all those clubs before and during the whole main event. And then there are conferences which I didn't attend for various reasons. First of all, those interviews take quite a lot of time, and if you want to do any kind of tourism at all, besides seeing the show, that is seeing the city and, you know, walking about, then you really kind of have to skip something. Now, some of the main things or main bands which I enjoyed most, I mean, there are lots of bands which I think really did great job, but I cannot really list them all because not everything can be my favorite, and, you know, not everything can be the best. But among the best bands I had most fun with, I guess, would be Asphyx doing their most energetic and fun death metal. Those guys had a really good groove during the show, very enjoyable. Valkyria being very aggressive and violent with their dark black metal, even though they played in this smaller club. Well, also Asgard, very good black metal show took place. Very enjoyable, and I think both of those bands are ready to conquer the bigger stage. Darkfather was also very nice, even though they didn't get that much audience, being playing this kind of epic black metal in a way, with lots of guitar leads and all that stuff. So kind of a more atmospheric and melodic than some of those bands, but still, nonetheless, doing a great stuff. Gorgoroth was also very energetic, playing this old school, old school and old school, but early 1990s black metal. I don't care so much about the newer songs, I'll be honest about it, but the early years material, just fucking killing it. And there are lots of bands which I probably should just remember like that, but it's kind of hard to get back into that without, cheating and taking notes. But my absolute favorite, nonetheless, was Kampfar. I don't know what I had there to be expected. I mean, I liked the material, especially the early years, but I didn't know how rusty they would be. Would they be really killing it? Would they be just quite okay? But they were fucking great, man. There was so much energy and all, so it was really great. And that was, I guess, my highlight band of the evening. Obviously, bands like Venom and Mayhem and Tolke did good stuff. I mean, they're so experienced and they never fail a good show. Also, Triumph of Death by Tom G. Warren and the crew doing old school Hellhammer set. Definitely worth watching. That was kind of like taking all the way to 80s with that feeling and all that stuff. So obviously these main bands, also including Creator, they do a wonderful job, so no denying that. And of course, one of my favorites of the whole thing here, of smaller bands or newer bands, Hordom Rife from Norway, definitely bringing back that old school Norwegian flame of black metal to the stage. So a lot of good shows. I missed something, probably 1/3 of all bands, I guess. Like first day, I pretty much gave every band a little bit of chance. But the longer you go, the less you sleep and all that stuff. And when there like schedule problems with interviews, well, then you kind of have to skip something. But basically, I saw no weak show at all. I mean, there are lots of interesting bands, smaller and bigger ones, which were interesting to see on stage. And there was enough variety. For example, the gals from Convent were quite different from the other things to offer. I mean, their kind of a doom death was something different from, those black metal bands and all. And of course, Cadaver playing old school death metal, Murkskog doing their more technical nature of death metal, also very enjoyable. Quite different from, the black metal bands doing their show. So I think there was quite a nice deal with the whole thing. Now, if you want to see the full deal, what was going on, and read some interviews, even though you might not have been there, this Inferno magazine is there for you to read. Give you also the idea of schedules and interviews. Too bad we couldn't nail Venom ourselves. Anyway, the interviews we did done, and now I can be totally open about it because they're already done. No empty promises here. We did Asphyx, old school death metal. Cadaver, also old school death metal. Order, which features one of the members of Cadaver, an ex-Mayhem members, so it's old school black metal in many ways. Then we had From the Vastland, doing kind of a documentary stories, how to start in black metal band in Iran and move to Norway. I think pretty kind of interesting. One of my all-time favorites in Rauta, Tom G. Warrior, what a gentleman, what stories he had. We had Dark Fortress, also very interesting interview, I think. And then we have Murkskog. Now wondering, did I forget something? If I did, well, let it slide. But anyway, 8 interviews in total, which I'm very happy about it. Happy about all of them. I think there were no disappointments. And I think you'll be catering a little bit different audience because they're black metal, there is death metal, and they're newer and older bands, which have their stories to tell you. And I'm pretty goddamn satisfied with the results. The people were nice, and in general, had a really, really great time. I'm looking forward to go back to Oslo, Norway in 2023 with my crew. So let's keep our thumbs up. It's going to be possible. And let's also keep our thumbs up that this time we managed to book a room in that Clarion Hotel. So I could, really get that, saving time from walking and having those interviews done at the home base, so to speak. But all in all, it's pretty easy to go to Norway. You just book those flight tickets, you book the hotel, and you're set to go. Just, save some money for the booze and the drinks because, and the food obviously, because it's just way more expensive. So Norway being one of the most expensive countries in the world, you kind of have to prepare for those roughly 10, 13 euros beers compared to wherever you are living. So it's going to be expensive, but it's worth the money, I think. Really enjoyable place, nice people, nice bands. Can't really complain about anything except the price. And the very fact that you don't get to buy any kind of beers or other alcohol on Thursday, Friday, Sunday, or nor Monday. Now, Monday you're leaving off anyway, but still it was like, what the hell? Jesus is very much present still in Norway, it seems, with all those churches. That is religious people. Anyway, should you have any questions about Inferno Festival 2022, I'll do my best to answer you, and I'll give you my best clues and tips for the future trips going to Inferno Festival. And those interviews, oh yeah, Belzer, that's the one I forgot when I was listing the names. That will be the first one to come out with these interviews. So I hope that we are getting those interviews out every 2 weeks or so. So there will be plenty of things to watch for coming weeks and months. So enjoy them. And like I said, should you have any comments or questions regarding Inferno, I'll do my best to answer you with those and give you the tips. Now, off you go. Have fun and listen to some good metal. Take care and bye-bye.